Hi, I'm Anita. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a bracelet. It's called the Drop Bracelet. Original design is by a lady named Patricia Parker from her book Colorful Components. If you click more below the video, you'll get all the details, including a link to my website. I'll have all of the list of materials, a link to the book, and if you're interested, check it out. Okay, let's get started. First of all, I'm going to review the materials with you. You're going to be needing 6-pound Fireline, and I like to use the, actually that's 4-pound, sorry about that. 6-pound is what we're using today. And I'm using black or smoke colored. I'm going to also use a size 12 beading needle, and I like to use the John James extra long needles. For materials, we've got several different multi-hole beads here. Starting here on my upper left, these are QuadraTile beads, and they have 4 holes, as you can see. And you always want to check all of your beads before you start a project when you're using multi-hole or any sort of bead, because multi-hole beads, once you start the pattern, if you have a hole that's blocked, it's a nightmare that you have to either start over or try to undo what you've done, what you've progressed on your project already. So always check them before you get started to save that headache. This next bead here is a QuadraLentil bead. It's kind of a rounded shape, slightly domed. It has 4 holes. Here I've got 2-hole cabochon beads, and these are size 6 millimeter. As you can see, and the hole runs down the side. Got 2 holes there, if you could see the other one. And I've got 2 different colors because this particular pattern called for 36, I believe, of the cabochon, and I didn't have quite enough. So I'm going to make it in 2 colors, as you can see my 2 samples here to see what it's going to look like. So when you are working with multi-hole beads, they're limited in packaging as to what they send you. A lot of times you might only get 25 per bag or 30 per bag. And if you run into that problem, consider making your project 2 different colors. That way you don't have to go back and try to order an extra bag, you know. So you can work with what you have. Just be creative. Try to get a color palette that's going to mesh well. So I've got 2 different 2-hole cabochons in 6 millimeter. This is kind of a citrus yellow with a little AB coating on it, and this is kind of a peachy tangerine color. You're also going to need some 8/0 seed beads, and I've got 11/0 seed beads, and I've got 3 different colors, kind of a canary yellow, tangerine, and green. Now this is optional. I decided to just, add some extra color in there, but you can use 1 color of the Miyuki 11/0 seed bead. And I'll have all of the measurements in the description box, and you can see how much you need of each one. For a clasp, you can use either a lobster clasp, you can use a ball and socket, or a toggle. So whatever kind of clasp you want to use, that doesn't really matter. All right, so let me clear my area and we'll get started. All right, quick correction on what I said earlier. You're not using smoke. I'm going to be using the crystal in the 6-pound Fireline. So you want to, depending on the color of your bead, I'm going to use the crystal today because I do have some light colored beads, and I think the crystal will blend better. Now, as far as what you do with these multi-hole beads, like I mentioned, always check and make sure you have all your holes are nice and clean. They aren't open. You don't have anything that's broken. And the other thing is you want to familiarize yourself with the orientation of the bead because we have 4 holes, and you want to go in through the correct hole depending on how we're doing this pattern today. So we're going to be starting with the QuadraLentil beads, and hole number 1 is considered, if I'm positioning the bead like this with the holes at this angle, hole number 1 is going to be this bottom hole here. So that's the first hole. Hole number 2 is going to be directly opposite. That's hole number 2. Then hole number 3 is going to be the one to the right. and hole number 4 is going to be the one to the left. So just to familiarize yourself with orientation, on the lentil, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now on the QuadraTile, it's going to be slightly different. The hole orientation for the QuadraTile is going to be the bottom hole is hole number 1, the one to the right is hole number 2, then directly across is hole number 3, and then directly straight up is hole number 4. So for the QuadraTile, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. For the QuadraLentil, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just make sure whatever pattern you're doing that you're understanding the orientation, because that's going to make a big difference in how your beads fall. All right, so let's get started. You're going to start by threading your needle with about 50 inches, that's 50 inches of thread, so that's just slightly over a yard, onto your needle, and we're going to start with the QuadraLentil beads. Okay, you're going to start by picking up 6 11-ohs and 6 QuadraLentil beads. Start with your 11-oh, and we're going in through hole number 1 of the QuadraLentil. So pick up another 11-oh, go through hole number 1, another 11-oh, and so forth through hole number 1, 11-oh, hole number 1, and you repeat until you have 6 QuadraLentils and 6 11-oh seed beads. Bring that down, and we're going to go back through all of the beads again. And you want to leave about a 6-inch tail, because we'll weave that in later. So we're going to come back through, here's our tail thread down here, we're going to come back through all of the beads that we went through, including the same hole of the QuadraLentil bead. So make sure that you are going through the exact same path where you started, like that. Pull that through, hold on to your tail thread, just kind of bring that together, just like that. So it's going to start to make a circle. So we're going to do a half-hitch knot where the threads are going to meet, right here. So we're going to take our tail thread, cross it over, bring it through, pull that together, like so. Now I'm going to do another knot, bring my tail over, and I'm going to go through the loop twice. I like to do extra secure, pull that together, nice and snug, just like that. So that's what you should have so far. We've passed through hole number 1, and then we'll go on to our next step. We are now going to reinforce by passing our needle back through all of our beads again. So I'm exiting right here, this 11-oh. I'm going to bring my needle back through hole number 1, through the 11-oh, and just continue one bead at a time if you need to. Going through hole number 1, the next 11-oh. Because it's a circle, it's kind of a challenge to go through multiple beads. So just reinforce by going through each one, going through hole number 1, the next 11-oh. I got 3 more to go through. Go through the QuadraLentil, the 11-oh. Go through the same hole. And I think I can get through this last QuadraLentil. So you want to exit, you want your needle to be exiting the QuadraLentil bead of where you started, and that was hole number 1. So that's what you should have so far. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this thread off because we did 2 knots, a half hitch and a surgeon's knot. So I'm just going to clip this tail thread out of the way. And then we'll go on to our next step. All right, now we want to position our thread so that we are ready to do the next row. And right now we're coming out of hole number 1. So we want to advance our thread to go through hole number 2, and that is going to be the hole directly opposite of where my needle is, this hole right here. So I'm going to step up, going into hole number 2. And again, that's the hole directly opposite, straight up from where you're at, right there. So now we're ready to start picking up our QuadraTile beads. So we're going to be using, I'm using black, and I'm checking, make sure all my holes look open, they all look good. And we're also going to be using 11/0s with this as well. All right, for this next step, we're picking up an 11/0 and a QuadraTile bead going through hole number 1, which is this bottom hole, and another 11/0. Just like that. Our thread is exiting the QuadraLentil through hole number 2. So we're going to go directly across to hole number 2 of the next QuadraLentil, which is right there. Just pull that through. And that's what you should have. Now it's going to flop around, don't worry about it. Just go on to the next one, pick up another 11/0, going through hole number 1, another 11/0, and we're going directly across to hole number 2 of the next QuadraLentil. And that's going to seat itself just like that. So we're going to do that all the way around. Pick up an 11/0, QuadraTile, hole number 1, an 11/0, and we're going through hole number 2 of the QuadraLentil, which is this hole right here. And I'm going to do that 3 more times. Okay, this is the last bead. Pull it all together so it's nice and snug, because it's going to be a little wonky at first. So that's what you should have right there. And what you do now is you're going to reinforce all the way around, back through all the beads that you just did, 1 bead at a time. Then you want to exit the QuadraTile where you started. So reinforce going back through. I'm going through the 11/0, the QuadraTile, the 11/0 where I've been through already. I'm going through the QuadraLentil bead right where the same hole I've just been through, the 11/0, the QuadraTile, the 11/0, just like that. And you're going to do that all the way around. I'm coming to my last reinforcement, going through the QuadraLentil, the 11/0, the tile, and the 11/0, and that's where I started. So I'm going to advance my needle through the next tile bead, 11/0, and QuadraTile. 11/0, I'm going through the lentil, the tile, the 11/0, the tile, and exiting right here And if your thread gets caught, just pull that up. So you want to be exiting the hole we've been through on the QuadraTile bead. So that's what you should have so far. Okay, so now we're going to step up. We want to advance our needle through hole number 2 on our QuadraTile bead. So this is where we're at. So hole number 2, I just flipped this over, is going to be directly to the right, right here. That's hole number 2. So that's where your thread, your working thread, should be coming out of hole number 2 directly adjacent to where we were right here. Okay, now we're going to be working with our 2-hole cabochons, and I'm using the yellow for this one. So right now our thread is exiting hole number 2 of our tile bead. We're going to pick up an 11-0, and I'm doing this with green, and I'm going to pick up my 2-hole cabochon coming through the top hole. So I've got the dome side facing up. This is the bottom. I'm going through the top 2 with the dome side up and another 11-0. So I'm exiting hole number 2 of my QuadraTile bead. I'm going to go through the corresponding hole directly across, which is hole number 2 right here. So we're going to pull that through, and my thread is trying to get tangled on me. Just pull that loose. It never fails. Your thread always tries to get tangled up on you, so just take your time as you're doing this. And it's going to kind of flip around like this, and it looks upside down, but it's going to change here on our next row. So we'll do that again. Pick up an 11-0, and I'm going through the top hole of my cabochon, or right hole, like that, right there, with the dome side up, picking up another 11-0, going through the QuadraTile bead, hole number 2, directly across, right there. Pull that through. And just try to keep it snug. It's going to be real loose, but don't worry about it. Just keep pulling as you add each set of beads. So we're going to pick up another 11-0, my 2-hole cabochon, going on the top hole, an 11-0, going into the next tile bead, hole number 2. Kind of hard to see. Just stay consistent with your stitch, and it's all going to straighten out here eventually. So I'm going to do this 3 more times, picking up an 11-0, my cabochon on the top hole, and another 11-0, going through hole number 2 of my tile bead. And they're going to look like they're upside down, but don't worry about that. It's going to change here in a minute. Now we're going to pick up another 11-0, cabochon, 11-0, going through the tile bead next in line, picking up my last cabochon with an 11-0 before and after, going through my last hole number 2 of my tile bead. So that's what you should have so far, and it looks very loose, but what you're going to do now is reinforce. So go all the way around, back through the same hole, same 11 O's. So you're going through the same hole of the cabochon, through the 11 O, the same hole of the tile, which is hole number 2, the 11 O, and the cabochon, same hole you've been through. You're going to do that all the way around, and you want to stop when you're exiting where we left off, going through that hole number 2 of your tile bead. So go ahead and reinforce, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, I'm coming to my last bead here, exiting the QuadraTile bead, going through the 11 O, the cabochon, the 11 O, and the tile bead. Hole number 2, right there. Pull that nice and snug, and that completes the reinforcement. So now we're going to advance our needle to hole number 3 on our tile bead. So we're coming out of 2, hole number 3 is directly across from hole 2. So I'm going from here to this hole right here. So that's where your thread should be exiting, through hole number 3. And then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, for our next step, we're exiting hole number 3 on our tile bead, right there. And we're going to be filling in the other side of our cabochon bead, because it's going to flip up a little. So it's going to sit sideways on our work like that. So I'm exiting the hole number 3 here, picking up an 11 O in green. I'm going to go through the second hole of the cabochon, which is the hole we have not been through yet. So go through the cabochon, pick up another 11 O, and we're going to go through hole number 3 of the next tile, which is this hole right here. Pull that together, and that's going to turn your cabochon sideways like that. And that's what you want, because it's going to be visible on both sides. So we're going to do that again. Pick up an 11 O, go through the empty hole of the cabochon, pick up another 11 O, and go through hole number 3 of the tile bead, which is this one right here. Pull, do that again, pick up an 11 O, go through the empty hole of the cabochon, pick up another 11 O, and go through hole number 3 of the tile bead. And pull. You're going to do that all the way around. I'm coming to my last cabochon, picking up my 11 O, exiting this cabochon, going through hole number 3 of the tile bead to finish that one, and I've got one more to do. Picking up an 11 O, going through the empty hole of the cabochon, pick up another 11 O, and go through hole number 3 where we started. As you can see, there's the thread there of your tile bead. Pull that together. That's what you should have so far. So once we've reinforced this, you want to be exiting a QuadraTile bead, and that's where we're at right now. So as you can see, it's visible from both sides. So now we'll go on to our next step. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to my orange seed beads, and I'm exiting hole number 3 of the QuadraTile bead. So from here I'm going to pick up 2 of my 11-ohs in the orange, and I'm going to go through the empty hole of the QuadraLentil bead, as you can see right there. So we're going to come through this hole right here, pull that together, pick up 2 more 11-ohs. I'm exiting the QuadraLentil, going back through hole number 3 of my QuadraTile bead. And I just want to go through the tile bead. Just kind of work around those 11-ohs. You don't want to go through the 11-ohs, just the tile bead like that. And what that does is that's going to encase the 11-ohs on both sides of the QuadraLentil bead like that. So we're going to do that again. Pick up 2 11-ohs in orange, exiting the tile bead, hole number 3, going through the QuadraLentil bead, the empty hole that's facing you right here. Oops, dropped my beads. Let's do that again. So I'm going through right here. Pick up 2 more, going back through hole number 3 of the tile bead, just the tile bead. So you can see the importance of having to check your holes on all of your multi-hole beads when you're doing a project like this, because that would be a big headache if you discover one of your 4 holes is blocked. That would not be a pretty picture. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Pick up 2 11-ohs. And I'm exiting the tile bead. I'm going to go through the empty hole of the QuadraLentil right there. And it's kind of an awkward angle, which is why I'm using the size 12 beading needle. It just makes it a little easier to maneuver. So you're going to repeat this pattern all the way around. Picking up my last 2 11-ohs, exiting the QuadraLentil bead, going through hole number 3 of my tile bead where I started. That's what you should have so far. Alright, so now that we've completed that, our thread is coming out of hole number 3 right here. We're going to go back on that same QuadraTile bead, and we're going to bring our needle back through hole number 2. Just the QuadraTile bead. And if you have to go through that 11-oh, that's fine. We're going to back that out. So I'm going through hole number 2, and I just want to go through the QuadraTile, so I'm going to back out of the 11-oh. Okay, so that's where we're at. We moved from here to here. We're going to flip this over now. So we're exiting the hole right here in the middle of these 2 11-ohs. So we're going to do the same thing that we did on this side. We're picking up 2 11-ohs, exiting the tile bead right here, hole number 2, going into the QuadraLentil bead with the empty hole that's next in line right there. Pick up 2 11-ohs, exiting the QuadraLentil, going into the QuadraTile, just the QuadraTile. So you're going to do that same pattern like we did, but we're doing it on this side. So go ahead and repeat, and I'll meet you when we get to the end. coming through my last QuadraLentil empty hole with 2 11-ohs, going through my last QuadraTile, hole number 2. And that's what you should have so far. So now that we've completed that, we're exiting hole number 2 on the QuadraTile right here. We're going to advance our needle through hole number 4, which is this last empty hole on your QuadraTile bead, right there at the tip. So that's what you should have, exiting right there. So we're going to pick up, the pattern calls for picking up 7 of our 11-ohs, and I'm doing it in the orange. And let's see if this works, because it should encase the cabochon, and if it doesn't, then we'll have to modify. And it looks like it's a little gap here, so we're going to have to add 2 more beads. So instead of 7, we're going to use 9. So let me go back and add 2 more beads. So it depends on the bead itself. Miyukis are very consistent. I'm not sure. I don't think this was a Miyuki brand, so they're a little smaller. Now on this pattern, I only had to use 6. 9 or 7. 9 would have been not enough. So you want an odd number, because that's how you're going to connect these. So I've added 2 more beads. I'm going to exit this hole here, going directly across to hole number 4 of the next tile bead, like that, and it should encase that. So notice that that cups the cabochon nicely. I don't have any gaps. So you'll have to adjust the count accordingly. 7 is what you typically would use with Miyukis. If it's a Toho, you might have to use less. It all depends on the bead. So if you notice that it's not quite, cupping it and you have too much space, just modify it and just add a couple more beads. So we're going to do that again. I'm going to pick up 9 of my orange. And exiting hole number 4 of the tile bead, going into the next tile bead, hole number 4. So we're going to do this same pattern all the way around to encase that. Very simple. So just continue. Okay, I'm coming through my last segment here, coming out of my last tile bead, going through the last one, and I'm going to advance through until I'm coming out of bead number 5, right there, because you want to have your thread exiting the center bead. So if you've got 7 beads, you're going to come out of bead number 4. Since I've got 9, I'm coming out of bead number 5. So that's where you should be, and that is how you make this component. So it's got both sides nicely filled. You can see the cabochon from either angle. Very pretty. So that is how you do these particular components. Now I've already done this one, and I did this one slightly different. I have green here and I don't have it here, and then I did a yellow one. So you're going to make however many components you need for your bracelet. Now this particular pattern calls for 6 components. So measure as you're going along, because we're going to be putting these together once we have them all made. So go ahead and continue with the pattern, and if you need to rewind the video, go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you how to assemble it and put it all together. Very pretty pattern, and if you want to mix and match your colors, you can do it this way, or if you wanted to alternate yellow, orange, on each one, you can do it whatever way you like. Very pretty pattern, very easy to do. Okay, so go ahead and get that done, and then we'll work on assembly for our last step. All right, now that we have all of our components done, I'm going to show you how to assemble this. Now the first thing, once you've ended your last component, I would encourage you to reinforce by going all the way around your beads, following this border path until you're coming out of the 4th bead here if you're doing the 7 beads. So now we're going to connect this to our other component. Now in this component I have 9 beads because the beads were smaller, so I'm going to be going into the 5th bead on this side. So I'm going from the 4th bead to the 5th bead on this side. So you want to line these up because we're going to be connecting them like this. So as you can see, I've done these already, and it's a very simple connection. So I'm exiting on our 4th bead here on this side. I'm picking up an 11-0, an 8-0, and 11-0, just like that. Now I'm going to come around and I'm going to bring my needle down through the beads this direction, going from the bead number 5 all the way down. So I'm going to pick this up to make it easier to show you. I'm counting back 5 beads, so I'm going through the 5 beads, the QuadraTile, and the next 5 beads. Just like that. Pull that through, and I'm going to set this down so you can see where the thread path is. Let me get this out of the way. All right, so we'll pull this together like so. So that's the first half of the connection. You've got your 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, and you're just looping around, and then we're exiting the 5th bead on this section here. I'm going to pick up another 11-0, 8-0, and 11-0. And my 8-0s are in the brown color to kind of give it a contrast. So I'm exiting here. I'm going to go into bead number 4 on this side, counting backwards. So I'm going through these 4, the QuadraTile, and the next 4. Right there. Pull that through. And this is the thread path for the connection, so you can see how that works. So I just basically looped around like this and came back around, grabbed my other 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, pull that together, and that is how you make your connection. Very simple to do. So once you've done that, all you're going to do is reinforce by coming back through the 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, through the 5 beads, the tile bead, the 5 beads, and back through the 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, and back through the 11-0s, the tile bead, and the 11-0s. And you're going to reinforce that 3 times at least. So go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, I'm coming near the end of the reinforcement here. I've gone through this 3 times. I've completed this bottom section here. I'm going back up through my beads and exiting the 4 beads, the 11-0s where I started. So I'm just pulling my needle through, and from here I'm going to do a half hitch knot by coming under the thread bridge, bringing my needle through the loop and pulling nice and tight, bringing that knot in between the beads. So now that I've completed that connection, I'm just going to weave my thread backwards, and I'm going to go through the 11-0s, going towards the left, through the tile bead, through the 11-0s, just like that. Now I'm going to come through a few more beads here, just like that, and I'm going to do another half hitch knot right here, bring this through the loop, and I'm going to just advance this needle through these 11-0s, tile bead, the 11-0s, and then back through these 3 11-0s and tile bead, and I'm going to cut my thread right here. So it doesn't matter where you choose to do this, just reinforce, make sure everything's nice and sturdy, and then you can cut off that thread. So now we're down to the end. I'm going to show you how to do the end ending here so you can add your jump rings and your lobster clasp. So I've already done it here on this side. This is what we're going to do. Very simple. You're exiting the same direction. In this case, I'm coming out of the 5th bead here in this direction, and I'm going to pick up 7 of my 11-O's. And I chose to do these in green just to give it a contrast. So I've picked up my 7 11-O's. I'm exiting this bead here. I'm going to come through the opposite side through the 5th bead and just go through all the rest of the beads, the tile bead, and your 11-O. Now just advance your needle through. I'm going through all of the 11-O's until I come out where my thread is exiting, and might have to do that in 2 steps. So let's just bring this through, and I have to rethread my needle because my thread decided to pop out. Let's get that back on here, and I'm going to continue bringing my needle through the next 4 beads. Actually, the next 3. Okay, so this is where we started. Pull that nice and tight. So you're going to reinforce this, coming back through the 7 11-O's. Right there. Then come back down where you started, through the tile bead, and through those next beads. Just like that. You're going to reinforce that a couple of times. So I'm going to go through again. Coming back down. Through the tile bead, and if you have to do it in more than 1 step, that's fine. Ideally, if you can get through the beads in 1 pass, it's a lot easier. All right, so let's see if I can squeeze through here. All right, there we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and advance through the rest of these beads and end this thread. I'm going to do a 1/2 hitch knot right here. Advance my thread through a few more beads. Another knot here. And I'm going to cut my thread right here. So that completes the assembly, and all we're going to do at this point is add our clasps. And I chose to do a 6mm and a split ring for the end and a lobster clasp. So all you have to do is open up your jump ring, just like that. I'm going to slip this through, and also going to slip this through my split ring. And I wanted a large enough ring to open to make it easier to put this bracelet on, because it's a pretty chunky bracelet. Now you have the choice to add an extender chain to this if you want, but I'm not going to do it on this one. So I'm going to add my jump ring on the other side. This is a 6mm jump ring. Put my lobster clasp on, and this is a rather large lobster clasp. This is a 15 by 9mm. I chose to use a bigger one because it's a pretty chunky bracelet. And we'll just slip this through and close. And here is our completed dewdrop bracelet. Isn't that pretty? Raise my camera just a little. Try to get this all in view. Very bright, lots of pops of color, just gorgeous. So this concludes today's tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you for joining me today. I'll have links in the description box below with all the products used in today's tutorial. I do have a website where I sell my own jewelry, and you'll see this piece for sale as well. If you're not a subscriber, I hope you do subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you're notified when I upload new videos. And I want to thank all of you that have subscribed and you keep sharing my links and leaving comments. I really do appreciate your feedback. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Happy beading, and I'll see you next time.